Has anyone heard about Horrid Henry? If you haven't, then let me fill you in. Horrid Henry revolves around a very misbehaved young boy who gets up into all sorts of antics, and also tends to make life difficult for those around him. Horrid Henry started life as a series of books, and then an animated series that was created based on the books. Both were once a thing of happiness from my childhood, but after reading this story, you'll soon see why I want to forget their existence. The other day I was cleaning out my attic when I came across one of my old Horrid Henry books. Then shortly afterwards, I remembered the cartoon series that had only a lifespan of a couple of years, and I always had wondered why that was so. So later that day, I decided to log into the internet to find some information involving around the unexplained absence of the show. At first I didn't find anything useful, but that quickly changed when I came across this rather particular web page. The web page was just a plain white title screen with a downloadable link. Below the link there appeared to be some sort of text explaining what the download was. The download, according to the text, was a zip folder containing every episode of Horrid Henry. I thought it wasn't that too hard to find, so I decided to download it, and for old time's sake, if I could turn the clock back. If only. When the download was complete, I extracted the zip folder and immediately discovered that the only thing that was in the folder was one single .avi file, simply called horrid.avi. At this point, I was kicking myself for being so naive and gullible, but I really couldn't complain, considering that it wasn't what I was looking for in the first place. I opened up the video anyway just to see what it was. There was where it all goes downhill. In the first place, I opened up the video anyway just to see what it was. This was all went downhill. It started with the catchy theme song, colorful animation, innocent enough, but the second intro had finished, it played again, but this time in reverse. When the reverse intro ended, the title card came up like normal. What the hell is this? I thought to myself in a state of confusion. The first scene has Henry refusing to get out of bed, a common scenario within the show. After numerous attempts of trying to get Henry to cooperate, Dad swings open the bedroom door in War and Peace ensures over the situation. That's until Dad picks up Henry's baseball bat and smashes it up pretty much everything in the room. Henry watches in horror as Dad offloads. Then we cut to Henry staring in the bathroom mirror, looking quite melancholy. But slowly he turns from being depressed into an immensely irate. He appears to be letting out a shout. But all I could hear was the white noise that was followed into the episode's title card. The title card holds a plain white backdrop, and the title reads nothing but then the phrase, which is Horrid Henry the Killer, backwards, and appears to be written in blood. Quite realistic blood, I might add. The following scene, we see a vexed Henry storming downstairs. As he's going downstairs, he shoves Perfect Peter, his little brother, to the side. Peter confronts Henry and tells him to use his manners. This was a foolish move considering Henry's current state of mind. Then Henry picks up Peter and shouts, "Try using your common sense, you backward ape!" right in his face. Henry then viciously, verbally, violently, and physically launches Peter head first down the stairs. When we see Peter laying down on the floor with his neck seriously and severely broken, Mom comes into the hall and sees Peter's body. She then looks upstairs at Henry and says, "Henry, horrid Deegan." Mom then starts to break down in tears and holds Peter. As Henry approaches her, she pushes him back and tells him to stay away from her. Mom attempts to ring the police, but she fails to reach the telephone as Henry knocks her out with a nearby vase. Killing her, Henry was now covered in blood. Dad hears all the noises and rushes into the hall, but it was too late. Both Mom and Peter are dead. Dad, now feeling murderous, lunges at Henry. However, Henry defends himself by punching Dad in the face right before making the run to the front door. But Dad is quick as an act, and he grabs Henry and drags him into the kitchen. Dad then throws Henry across the kitchen as he lands on the work surface. As Dad approaches him, Henry then kicks him in the stomach, picks up a kettle and pours hot water all over Dad's face. We see a graphic close-up of Dad's scalding face, as then cuts back to Henry looking psychotic. Henry leaves the house and starts walking down the pavement. Rude Ralph, one of Henry's friends, sees Henry over on the road, and as Henry looks over at Ralph, with it having cruel intentions of running out of his mind, Henry then sees a truck speeding down the road. Henry then dares Ralph to attempt to walk across the road when the truck is close by, and he claims that he'll grant him 10 pounds if he takes the dare. Ralph, being the foolish character he is, he then accepts the dare, knowing that Ralph is easily mislead individual. Henry then smirks over the thought, and as Ralph sees a moving truck homing in, he steps right in front of it. Fortunately for Ralph, the truck swerves past him, so Ralph, cocky as the king of spades, heads over to Henry for his 10 pounds. But all of a sudden, the truck collapses onto its side, crushing Ralph as he failed miserably to run away. Henry then heads over to the scene along with a few locals, with his bloody face tarnished and closed, and the truck driver emerges from the wreckage. Slowly, the driver dragged himself towards Henry, as we soon discovers the driver's legs were now immobilized. The driver then looks up at Henry and utters the sentence, "Look at what you did!" Henry then glances at the truck and then down at the truck driver. Then Henry knocks down the driver in the face, which resulted in breaking the driver's nose, and proceeded to walk away from the scene. For some strange reason, the resolution starts to deteriorate as the audio goes all muffled. This is later lasted for a good 3 minutes, until eventually the picture and audio are picked back up. When the picture and the audio came back, it landed right in the middle of the scene, to which Henry is butchering Sour Susan, one of Henry's enemies, to a pulp with a metal pole. Then I think Henry said, "I hate you, Susan. Sour Susan. Duh." Henry then goes into hiding and heads for what seems to be a good hiding place, the bushes in the neighbor's back garden. Fortunately for Henry, the garden he had chose to hide in happened to be the garden that belonged to Moody Margaret, one of Henry's other enemies. Strange surely would have seen it known as Margaret's garden. Then again, it was a rash decision, and maybe with a bit of luck, he might be able just to pull this off. Margaret enters the garden. She happens to look over Henry's garden, only to find the mutilated body of Susan, her best friend. She then turned as white as a ghost, and stood as still as in a state of shock. The twisted Henry then had become, and as much to despise Margaret, he couldn't help but feel the agony within. He then reveals himself and heads over to Margaret. Once again the screen goes funny, but the audio not this time. All I could hear was crying. But when the picture came back, Henry is seen violently strangling Margaret. After choking her to death, Henry slowly stands up and looks out of the window. An angry mob and some police cars wait for him outside. Henry then jumped out of the window and snatched their heads as the blood flew everywhere. Henry laughed as he turned into dust. First of the credits appear on the video and stays on those credits. As this is happening, the whole audio from the episode plays again, in reverse while the still image fades to black, and then it cuts to the last of the credits. The only thing appears is Horrid Henry, accompanied by a caption that read, "Copyright 666. Soon after that, I tried uploading this to YouTube, but the .avi file somehow vanished from my hard drive, and the web page that I have downloaded it is nowhere to be seen. I wonder if that was even a proper episode. If so, maybe this has some connection to the sudden decline of the show. I doubt I'll ever find out."